Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm just going to run you through the Alps Divide, which is a bikepacking event I got back from earlier this week. The Alps Divide is a self-supported bikepacking adventure. So mixed terrain, 1,000 kilometers, starting on the Mediterranean in Menton and finishing on Lac Leman or Lake Geneva at Thonon Le Bains. And it was a pretty cool route. You can see it here, but I'll click over to Ride with GPS so you can see it properly. Basically I decided to do this event pretty last minute. You may know that I had a bit of a disaster at the Silk Road mountain race when I was riding really strongly. So I got home a week early and basically I wasn't done for the year. I felt like I had a lot to give. Still wasn't had a bit in the tank at Silk Road. So I had 2.5 weeks just to kind of recover. Bit of a quick turnaround, service a bike, change some parts. I'll do a bike check video soon. Got back out on the start line for Alps Divide and hoping to basically not salvage the year, but end the year on a bit more of a high after the disappointment of scratching Silk Road while I was kind of in a podium position. I'll do a little report. I've got some video, run through the tracker and sort of highlight some points. I'll do a bike check video and like an actual race video that will be out later in this week. I've also just launched memberships on the channel as well. So basically the benefit of that is you basically can see everything straight away. Normally I schedule kind of videos for 2-3 days time. If you're a member, you can see them straight away. And what I'm also going to do is do some dedicated membership videos. So if you've got any questions, put them down below, and at some point in the next few weeks, I'll do a Q&A session video for members only. You can ask about Alps Divide or Silk Road mountain race or anything else, and I'll do that. And the other thing as well, I've got a Substack I'm running. I'll put a link below. So if you're interested in that, basically there I'm gonna put all my film photos. I take a lot of photos on these races, and I end up basically having nowhere really to send or put the photos. They go on social media, but that lasts a couple of days and then they're gone. Substack. I'm going to put some more in-depth kind of reports and route descriptions and things like that, and all my film photos. So check out that. And again, there's a bit of I think it's about a $5 for the YouTube membership, but that hopefully that's going to help me, grow the channel, do more stuff as we head into the winter, keep me going, plenty more adventures next year. Right, that's enough of me trying to sell you my wares. Let's get on to this. So started down in Menton, just down the sort of the coast from Nice, as you can see from the map here. And I'll start the tracker, but as you probably know by now, the first day or so, it's a pretty much pointless affair looking at the tracker. These trackers, they were updating every 10 minutes, and at times it was pretty. Let's just say, the terrain of the Alps is quite steep. The trackers weren't actually that great, so there was a few lags every now and again. At certain points I checked the tracker and I was a good 20k from where I actually was. We'll take this with a pinch of salt. But basically we started in Menton. Beautiful sunny day, as you can see. That's the old town. We actually started you can see the harbour in the back there, just sort of behind the harbour. Really nice place to start. Nice to see a bit of sunshine because the weather's certainly turning in the UK, and I do love like Nice and the Mediterranean. And we went straight up the Col de Bonette, actually the Trek Menton road bike that's named after this col. That was kind of that was a start, and it was pretty wild. Obviously everyone goes full gas at these things, but I was feeling pretty good. I knew I'd just come back from Kyrgyzstan. Obviously I've been at altitude for a while, and it was quite hot in Kyrgyzstan. And to be honest, I was feeling pretty good. And, early on I felt like I was one of the strongest on the climbs, especially in the heat. So I'd done a lot of sort of training for the heat and altitude in Kyrgyzstan, and obviously then riding in Kyrgyzstan, there were sections where, it was on the first day, up to checkpoint 1, it was 30 degrees and 3,500 meters altitude. So my body was pretty well adapted. So we had these kind of road climbs early on. You can see, I'll zoom in so you can see the checkpoints. And then the first sort of major off-road section, they call it the Salt Road. So a bit of a long climb up. and then this plateau. I'll actually just put my heat map on. If I put my personal activities on, you can see I did some of this last year on the Thonon Le Bains rally route. So essentially I did this section backwards. So early on I kind of half knew where I was most of the time, and I was actually ahead going onto the Salt Road. At this point I'd started, and George Sales and Johannes Schmidt were kind of pretty close by, and you want to be keeping an eye on Zbigniew Moskozy, or Ziggy as he told us to call him. So essentially early on, I was out front, fairly chunky lead. I was feeling strong, feeling fresh, and covered this first section up to the Salt Road. So I'll find the video here for you. So there's a few roads on the way up to it, sort of mainly road, a bit of gravel. This is one of the gravel descents when I was riding with George Sales early on. You can kind of see the terrain. I really do like the Southern Alps. I really enjoyed this sort of area on the Thonon Le Bains rally route last year when I was touring. And again, just really enjoyed it this time round as well. It's amazing actually. You go from Nice straight up, or Nice or Menton or wherever on the Côte d'Azur there, and straight up into the mountains, and the roads are really quiet, and it's definitely an area I want to spend a bit more time in, whether on the road bike or gravel bike, and I'm pretty sure there's some pretty cool mountain bike trails in there as well. So this route was, I guess, billed as the kind of route you could ride on a gravel bike if you wanted to, but to be fair, it would suck. So it's definitely a hardtail route, and it was kind of hardtail is going to be best. There is a lot of tarmac in it. But also there's a lot of gravel roads, and then you'll definitely make that up on a mountain bike on the rougher stuff. So this is the climb up to the Salt Road. Perfect, like sunset, beautiful up there. It was a full moon. It was pretty spectacular actually. The clouds kind of inverted, so they were below us in the valley. Obviously I don't have much. Well, I don't really have any video from the night because it was dark. But really cool experience riding up there. I'd ridden it in the daylight before, so it was nice to experience it in a different way. And the section I'm talking about here is here. So basically tracing the Italian border, the French-Italian border, then drop into Italy. And you can see on Rider GPS here, obviously by now you probably know the checked section shows it's off-road. So you kind of just stay up pretty high for a while, going into France a bit, back into Italy. And then drop down into the town of Tende. Now I got into Tende, it was probably about 11 o'clock, maybe midnight. And you can see here from the purple line, I'll just undo it and do it again. So the personal activities there on Rider GPS, that shows my heat map. That shows where I dropped down on the Thonon Le Bains rally. So I knew there was this long valley road. Then I knew there was a long climb up. And so I decided to see how far I get up this climb. And I got nearly to the top, and I had a fairly decent lead by that point. So I'll just fast forward a little bit. See around the top there, around the Salt Road, and then on the descent, and then this long valley road. I could see Jonas in the background. I could see his light, but it looks like he stopped there. And this is where kind of like the race started to sort of pan out a little bit. So I stopped for a couple of hours here. And if we zoom in, you can see a few people pass me. Ziggy, he just carried on. He didn't sleep. So Ziggy didn't sleep. I didn't actually hear him pass me. But then I got back ahead again. So I was really going quite well in the morning. I woke up fairly fresh. I was a bit unsure whether it was only 2 weeks since the Silk Road Mountain race, and that is a hard race. It does take a lot out of you. Although I scratched, I did do 2/3 of it, and I just wanted to be sure that I was kind of fresh enough. So I slept a couple of hours, got ahead of Ziggy pretty early on here, down the long descent into the next valley, just try to sort of get into my rhythm. Stopped for some food, and then on to sort of settle into the next day. So we started at midday. So by this point we weren't even 24 hours in, just kind of got to get into it. So the next day they would start with this pass. The sun came up, pretty warm. This was a fairly easy gravel pass. The roads are quite steep in the Alps, as I found out, even the tarmac. But the main challenge of the day was the Col de Bonette. So basically worked away along the valleys, and then kind of went up this road parallel to the Col de Bonette. There was a bit of a valley road, and I was still ahead here. And as you can see, it was really hot. I was stopping and just sticking my head under water fountains. Done a lot of work on heat, and kind of got a bit of an understanding of how my body kind of deals with heat. So basically, I was stopping and sticking my head under the fountains. The one good thing about the Alps is there's plenty of water fountains. So I was basically sticking my head under the water fountains at any opportunity, just to take the sort of the body temperature down. So yeah, I think I saved quite a lot of energy on that first day on the Col de Bonette. So as we can see here, the Col de Bonette, well, actually it's the Col de Bonette. It was a little out and back loop. So the video I showed you was on this long kind of parallel road. The main road goes up here. We went up this side road. I can't remember the name of the col, but it's a different col. And then you kind of pick up this this gravel road at the top, and then you basically go up, do a loop around. I think it's the highest road in France, potentially the Alps, a little under it's about 3,800 meters, I think. Sorry, 2,800 meters. And basically all the tourists go and take their photos on this Col de Bonette here. So it was pretty cool. Nice to sort of see one of these famous climbs from the Tour de France. So this is the gravel section at the top. So you can see the Col de Bonette is kind of up on the left hand side here. It was pretty hot up here actually at this time. And pretty steep, and obviously altitude's kicking in as well. But having just come back from Kyrgyzstan, I was feeling pretty good. And you can see the road we climbed up all day. This is just around the top. The views are spectacular. It doesn't really get much better than that in the Alps. So yeah, pretty cool. And I actually saw Ziggy on the descent. Stopped, just had a word for a minute or so. He was pushing on the steeper sections. I think he was suffering with a bit with the climb. And certainly the heat and the altitude and the combination. And then we dropped down to the first checkpoint, Refuge Hotel de Bailles. And this was actually a pretty cool descent just down this valley here. So this is an area I've not really been to before in the Alps. So it was really cool to see. And that descent was pretty rocky actually. So this is how it was, down this nice valley. Pretty rough, I mean, pretty rideable. It would be nice on a full suspension, you could really let loose, but as it was kind of like a long race, I didn't really want to kind of I didn't want to totally let off the brakes and go super fast, because if you just crack a rock or something like that, you could puncture and split a tire, which is not what you need early on or at any point in the race. More on that later. But yeah, went down pretty nice and controlled, fairly fast, but not too reckless. It's just not worth the risk, I find, on these events. And yeah, basically the checkpoint was sort of down at the bottom of the valley there. So that was a pretty cool descent. And then the next section was pretty much a kind of, I guess I'd call it a transition section. So down this long kind of road descent. There's a bit of a pattern in the Alps. You sort of go down on the road, hit a valley road, start climbing the road. It turns to dirt track, and then usually the highest passes are kind of a bit of a hiker bike on a footpath. It was a Sunday at this point, so I went in. You can see my little line here into Barcelona. There was one little supermarket that was open, so I made sure I'd resupplied as much as I could. And then just down this long valley road, there was a little bit of a cycle path here through some pretty cool train tunnels. And again, you can see here it's fairly flat. And then you hit this Lac Leman, and yeah, that was pretty cool actually. It was nice to have a bit of a respite after sort of being really up high. And yeah, it kind of looked a bit like this. So that's the lake on the tarmac there. Lovely easy miles in the evening. Sun was out, nice and warm, nothing really to complain about. And yeah, and then started climbing. So yeah, pretty steep climbs. Again, it got dark, so I didn't have much much to show you in terms of footage, but these couple of climbs here, and they're just one of those climbs that never really you never really felt like you got to the top. There was always another little kick up, even though you felt like you should be going downhill. It's quite annoying actually when you look at the map and you realise you could have just nipped around it pretty easily. But yeah, it got dark up here for me. And then there was this long climb up through here, which it took quite a while actually. So I climbed up here in the dark, and I probably got to about midnight. Again, I didn't want to push too hard. I slept probably around here somewhere, and yeah, here I think near the fountain, pretty much there. So I didn't want to push too hard in terms of sleep, so I slept 4 hours on the climb up to Roseland, or the ski station of Roseland. So if we go back to the tracker, and yeah, basically this is the point at which I kind of realised I was in a bit of a battle with Ziggy. So we went down the descent through Ozola. We're quite a way back at this point, through the checkpoint. As you can see, I got there first, and then, yeah, basically, Ziggy caught me. He didn't sleep, so I'll fast forward it a little bit. So we'll be up here somewhere. So yeah, this is where I slept. So you can see here, going up this climb, quite slow pace. You see the pace, the difference in pace here. And I slept 4 hours, and I'm not sure Ziggy did sleep. If anything, he had a power nap. So he pushed out quite a gap on the sort of descent and the climbs before Menton. So you can see there, 20k. I'm at 500, he's at 20, and that was kind of I guess the theme, the theme of the ride. Anyway, I was, from this point onwards, I was pretty much chasing. So the next day, we went over that section to Roseland, stationed the Roseland, and dropped down into the valley through Roseland. I think I got a resupply here. This is the point where I realised I thought Ziggy might have slept, but I think I checked the tracker and realised he was ahead, and I thought, oh, it's going to be a bit of a battle, this one. And then there was this first sort of tough climb, the Col de Bonette. Now this climb, like most of the climbs in the route, you start on road, then you go to some fire road, so you can see getting higher and higher here. Pretty nice steep climb, and then you go onto the hiker bike, and this is what the hiker bike looked like. This is the top anyway. So you see Menton far down in the valley there. About to ride down this track, and I just walked up to something very similar. I mean, to be honest, it's not too technical. You probably could have ridden up it if you were fresh and had a light bike and gave it full effort, but not really worth it on an ultra like this. But the descent was pretty cool, and see nice alpine single track. I really love this stuff. So yeah, it was nice to ride it. Again, just trying to keep control of things. Don't want to be going too fast, hit a rock, or just slip and end up crashing. You could quite easily end your race if you cocked it up and fell down that valley on the side there. But you can see, pretty spectacular. You can see where you're going down into Menton. I definitely enjoyed riding these single track sections. Not too technical, but enough just to keep you on your toes. And it was actually quite slippy with the rock on there. So yeah, you just had to watch it. And caution is often the best way to approach these, I find. And then drop down into Menton just through here. So I got a little resupply. Again, you can see from my heat maps, I've been through there a couple of times. Went through there on Trina and Nice last year. We came down the road. This time we climbed up this parallel valley, dropped back into Italy, and then we started heading again, another, I'd call it a transitional section, down the highway for quite a lot, and then sort of parallel. There's a bit of a kind of a bottleneck here with a motorway and the train track, but there was a kind of a parallel cycle path down by the river into Bardonecchia. So I managed to get quite a good resupply in Bardonecchia, and then climb up to the high point of the route, the Col de Bonette, which is pretty spectacular. Really was really was a cool climb. So I'll show you that here. And it's, as you can see, it's an out and a back. At this point, I was probably 10k or so behind Ziggy. So I kind of, I knew I'd see him, so I just wanted to sort of make sure, I was there still. So this is the Col de Bonette. If you want to know what it's like to ride in Kyrgyzstan and the Silk Road mountain race, I'd ride this route. I mean, there's a lot more four-wheel drives and traffic like that on here. It's a bit of a four-wheel driver's paradise, but I got there in the evening, and it was really cool. And the altitude, the terrain, it was very similar at times to like your sort of pass in Kyrgyzstan. So you can see that me and Ziggy were kind of pulling ahead of the others now. I don't really know what's going on in the rest, to be honest. I was pretty much in my own little world. So yeah, see Ziggy on the descent, closing the gap again. And I was just riding really fast on here. Obviously, the altitude I had in my legs, and my, I was climbing much faster than Ziggy, which is really nice. And I saw him about a mile from the top, a couple of k from the top. So this time, yeah, I closed the gap, but then he carried on. I stopped for a pizza. So yeah, he just didn't seem to stop, which was pretty impressive ride from him. I think I was probably riding faster most of the time, but he didn't sleep very much. In fact, his only real sleep was this second. Is it the second night? Maybe the third night. Third night. So he stopped just in a hotel somewhere down here. So I don't actually know where he did stop. Yeah, it looks like it was a hotel. So this is the descent of the Col de Bonette. But we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Before that, so I went up and over this pass just out of Bardar, and then the rain came, absolutely smashed it down. So yeah, I did this little road pass. And then in this valley here, the rain hit really hard, and it was torrential, like rivers coming down the road. Got to about 11 o'clock, and I was thinking I needed to cut my sleep a little bit here, but I just got so wet, and I knew that we were going up high again. You can see there's this kind of hiker bike section here. And I found a little church actually on the side of the road. So I went inside and I was able to sort of sleep in the warm, in the dry, dry myself off a little bit. And yeah, it was a good thing to do, but my plan of cutting sleep didn't really work. It was raining again in the morning. I did most of this hiker bike in the rain. It did stop just near the top, and then we sort of basically dropped down onto the the descent of the Col de Bonette. So you can see that here, the Col de Bonette. Classic from the Tour de France. So we came in off this old military road. You could ride down this section here, and then you're basically on the road, and then you're kind of dropping in through Valois, and the towns in the bottom, over the Col de Telegraph and the towns in the bottom. So yeah, I actually got ahead of Ziggy here. So this was his only real big stop. So he stopped for 4 hours or so, and obviously I stopped earlier, and I got ahead of him, but I didn't know because I wasn't looking at the tracker. So the timings are a bit off here, but I actually did get ahead of him briefly, and then he caught me again, and I just, he came from behind. I wasn't expecting him. He shined his light in my face, and I was all a bit confused by it. But yeah, he had a sleep, and then again, I need to stop for my morning resupply, which I did. Found like a little casino supermarket that was open, and yeah, we just carried on with this sort of like 5 to 10k gap for the rest of the day up to CP2. Now I never quite closed the gap to CP2. I suffered a little bit in the morning. It was a bit of a steep morning, and I just didn't quite have the legs for some reason. So I'll show you the first steep climb, Col de Encombre. So pretty cool. You can see how steep it is. All the sheep in the valley. Basically, we climbed up behind these clouds somewhere. Bit of on and off the bike. Again, it's one of these ones. If you're really fresh, you might be able to ride it, but when you've got your legs, a couple of days in and not much sleep, you're not going to be riding the top section. And yeah, it was pretty steep. Took a long time, a lot of time in first gear, but then you got this kind of descent down the bottom. Again, 4x4 track, nothing too technical, but it's one of those ones that could catch you out. You can carry a lot of speed. You can catch one of these sort of rain sort of grooves in the road from the rain or catch a rock. And you can see it had been raining again. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Pretty nice to kind of get a bit of free time again, freewheel for a bit. As you can see, it had been wet, so it was a little bit slippery. I did nearly lose it once, just coming around a corner and losing traction. So yeah, you've got to be aware of these things. But yeah, that was a pretty cool descent, and then the climb up to CP2, another long kind of road climb. Just went on for ages and ages. I was struggling a bit, as I said, got quite warm, just ran out of, maybe a little bit low on energy. But yeah, climbed up all day. Got to the checkpoint. I think I was about an hour behind Ziggy. So yeah, that was kind of how the gap was most of the time. At this point I couldn't really close it, but I knew that I had to have a bit of a push. And at this point I felt that when it was just more road climbs, he was faster. But when it was a bit more technical and off-road, I felt like I was faster and I could close the gap. So you can see another couple of climbs here. There was a bit of a hiker bike, and I can never quite see him, but we were never that far apart. So yeah, we basically did a bit of a hiker bike after the CP, and so that hiker bike section. I've got a bit of video here for you. So this is just the top of it, and you can see what we're dealing with up above the clouds. Really quite nice, and yeah, kind of the weather looks changeable, doesn't it? So yeah, over the top there, and then the really cool descent down to Lac Roseland and the dam. You can see on the right hand side, you see the dam. So you may notice that, or may recognise that from the Tour de France. The riders quite often cross it when they do the Col de Bonette. Really cool to see it, and we were heading basically into those clouds on the right hand side there for the next long climb. So again, it got dark, so I couldn't really tell you exactly what it looked like because it was dark. But the next stage was let me zoom out a bit. Heading over towards Chamonix. So that's the Lac Roseland that I just showed you. So this will be the descent here. The checkpoint was here, a bit of a gravel climb. The hiker bike, the cow poo hiker bike, because there was a lot of cows on it. And then this long climb up before there was a pretty cool, pretty techie kind of hiker bike over the top. Nice and rocky. And then heading back down towards Chamonix, so Le Houche and these places, up the valley from Saint-Gervais and then down into Chamonix. So this descent was pretty good. I could see the weather closing in a bit when I was up there, and I rode it all. Well, not all of it. There was some sections a bit bouldery, you needed to kind of hike down, but I rode quite a lot of it, just being careful. And yeah, and then I just had a bit of a disaster. So I just caught, I don't even know what I caught. There wasn't really anything in the trail. It must have been just a tiny little sharp rock. I just caught the edge, and as you can see, I totally ripped the side knob off, and I put four plugs in there, and I just couldn't get it to seal. So, and obviously it started raining then, so I found a bit of shelter. So this would have been on this descent here. So it would have been, I was so close to the fire road. So I don't know quite where it was. Must have been, oh, here it is. Look, this is where it was. So I obviously stopped here in this little this little kind of shelter. So basically there was a big sort of rock in the end of the trail, just sort of just denoting the end of the trail, and I went around it as well. All the hikers, all the other bike riders have gone around it, and I just caught something. So yeah, I had to muck around for ages. Ended up putting I had to patch the inside of the tube with a restrap tire boot, and then put an inner tube in, and then pump it up. And then I got down. Into, it would be this town here. So it would have been, I don't know what the name of the town is. It's not Saint-Gervais, but it's one of the satellite towns to Saint-Gervais. And I was pretty down then, because I knew it was it's Le Houche, I think at this point I took a mental hit. I knew that I could close the gap to Ziggy, and I knew that if I cut sleep and rode really hard the next day, there was a pretty good chance I could do it, but then I lost half an hour, 45 minutes probably, just mucking around with this tire. It's just a bit of a head game, isn't it, sometimes? So I came into town, everything was shut, and then I found a pizza machine, and the only option left was tuna pizza. But it was warm food. I only ate half it. It was pretty disgusting, if I'm honest. Half of it was burnt. Tuna pizzas are pretty disgusting at the best of times. But that picked me up a little bit. And then there was the sort of the climb then over to Chamonix. So up and over. There's La Houche and then Chamonix further down. And it was just stupidly steep, really steep. This section here, just pushing it. At that point, you're tired as well, and it really is quite difficult at that stage of a ride to just to ride stuff. So I got most of the way up, and then I decided to sleep. So I slept an hour and a half somewhere around here. There was a little chalet. I just slept under the eaves of the chalet, and then that was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then. So about 3:30, 4. It was probably 4 o'clock, just before 4 by the time I got going. And then I rolled through, basically through Chamonix. Into Chamonix. Got some resupply in the morning, and kind of got going into the next section. So as you can see here, we then passed into Switzerland. The route goes through Italy as well as Switzerland. This was the morning. You can see kind of the valley into Switzerland, on the tarmac for a little bit, and then just some brutally steep road climbs. And just to make things even better, it was raining on and off, and then I punctured again. So basically what happened was these Continental tyres are obviously tubeless, and they have like a bit of a sticker inside that's just a quality control barcode. And I suspect that's just rubbed the inner tube and just put a tiny cut in it. So I felt like I was making good time again, potentially closing back to Ziggy, but I punctured. And then I decided to try and patch the tube because I only had one left and I wanted to keep a spare. So I did that, put it all back in, and then it went flat again. So then I had to take it all out. Then I had to redo, and when I pulled the tube out, it pulled the boot off the inside of the tyre. So I had to re-stick that, and it's just, sat there in the rain, pumping up a tyre is just not what you want. Mentally, I think I took a bit of a hit there. And at that point, I thought basically I just need to get around for second place. So I got the tyre in, got it going again, and I basically resigned myself to second place by this point, and just got going up the climb. So the climb is a climb up to Lac de Salanf, I think it's called. And this is just not what you want when you're in a bit of a downer. It's horrendously steep. I mean, you couldn't really ride up that. Just plodding up there. And I think it's fair to say I wasn't particularly amused at this point. It was just one of those mornings. And then you go up to the Col de Bonette. You ride all of that, a bit of a transition, and then you got a bit of a hiker bike up to the Col de Bonette. And even though I was a bit grumpy, I realised actually it was pretty damn cool up there. So the cloud did clear at times. You can't see much here, but it did clear. So I got to the top of this massive climb. And you're going to get a pretty cool descent. By this point, I did obviously have the inner tube in the back. So I was pretty careful on the descent, and I pumped up the tyre as hard as I could. It's one of those descents you can really, really let loose. But I was just kind of keeping control on the brakes, like pumping them, not dragging the brakes, because that just gets the brakes too hot and wears your pads out. But trying to kind of keep things under control, try not to smash the rear wheel into a rock, because if I punctured the rear tyre or the tube, then I'd be in trouble. I'd have to really spend some time to glue patches on the tubes. That's something I really didn't want to be doing. By this point, I just wanted done. I think my head was probably out the race a little bit. I knew Ziggy was ahead. He was an hour or two ahead, and it was going to be. I was running out of road to close the gap. Even though I think I was riding, I was probably riding quicker, certainly on this kind of terrain. But lots of things were slowing me down, and it was all getting a bit frustrating, as it can sometimes. You kind of lose track of where you are. So this is that section there, and that was the descent, this checked section. And then I stopped in this little town of Saint-Maurice. You can see I just went off track just to find a little supermarket. And it was this point, basically, I didn't really have my phone on very much. But I got down to Saint-Maurice, which is down here. And yeah, basically, oh no, it's down here. And basically, yeah, I just suddenly got a load of messages saying that I was really closing in on Ziggy. So you can see I must have ridden that section much quicker. And I was back down again, despite the kind of the puncture. I was getting the gap, you know, back down to a reasonable time again. So yeah, on the climb, it must, as I was in Saint-Maurice, it was about 10-12k again. So yeah, but there wasn't much I could do. You can see there's this long valley up past Champery, and that's basically the last proper climb of the route by this point. So I decided not to look at the tracker, just get my head down. You see the long steep road climb. The weather was on and off. It was rainy, and it would hammer it down for a while, and then you get through the clouds and the sun will come out again. You can see Lac Leman, Lake Geneva in the far distance there. So we're getting closer. That's kind of the eastern end of the lake. And yeah, just on this really steep road climb. Then it turns into a gravel climb. And then finally, the last little hiker bike. So if you've ever been mountain biking in Morzine, you might recognise this little descent. This is on the other side as you drop into Switzerland. And yeah, basically kind of into the last sunset was on this little section up here. So you can see you go all the way around Champery. There's some good trail here, bit of gravel road, and then you're on the top of the Porte de Soleil. You've got Avoriaz, Morzine's down here. Again, I've been here plenty of times mountain biking, so I kind of half knew where I was. And then yeah, you kind of do this traverse and you start the descent down to Lac Leman. A cheeky little climb at the finish. This was a bit of a grind, to be honest. Really steep, hard climb, on and off riding. Bit of techie single track, which wasn't really rideable when I got there because it was so slippery and rocky, and I didn't really want to bin it. And then you're back on the road, and then it's kind of a bit of a long drag. Some bits of off road here. By this point, I was pretty tired. You can see I missed the turn here. But yeah, dragged all the way down into Thonon Le Bains, and yeah, so I rolled in. It must have been probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and I came in second place. I just couldn't close that gap to Ziggy. By the time I had the punches, I'd lost an hour and a half for sure on the punches. Just sat in by the side of the road, pumping up tyres. So yeah, the gap was about 20k or so by this point, as you can see. And yeah, Ziggy took a really good win. He just didn't stop. I stopped a lot more, and he was just a lot more consistent on the pedals. And yeah, I put the tracker on there to see. And yeah, Ziggy came in first. I think I was about an hour and 40 minutes behind. A bit frustrating. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. Maybe I shouldn't have slept on the first night. That's 2 hours. Definitely shouldn't have punctured, but these things happen. So yeah, a bit frustrating, but even so, I came in second. So it was a nice way to finish the year, better than a scratch in Kyrgyzstan. So yeah, so that's me done for the year now. It was a really great event. So thanks for the organisers, Katie and Lee, for getting me in sort of last minute and putting together a really great route. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to sign up for the memberships and check out Substack if that's kind of what you're into. And I'll have a bike check, and I'll have a race video in the next week or so. If you're a member, you'll see those early. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and see you again in the next one.